I'm Lloyd Neely. I'm moderator for this session. The session is on navigating your career path as a transportation technician. So we hope to present a lot of information that will be helpful and perhaps clarify some things that are written into policy but may need a little bit of explanation. We have three presenters today. We have Kevin Griffin will explain the vision and the impetus behind the entire TransTech program. And we have Ira Bickford who will talk about the TEP and the education programs that we have. And then Steve Niebergall will explain the peer review process and how you can navigate that. And before we start, though, we do have sign-in sheets that we would like everyone to sign their name on. As these go, there's two of them, so let's just keep them both circulating. You only have to sign it once, but if you see it a second time, just keep it circulating just in case other people come in that didn't get a chance to sign earlier. And with that, I'll turn the beginning of the presentation over to Kevin Griffin.
Thank you. Has anybody ever heard me present before? Raise your hand. Steve does. I know. You know, they made a big mistake putting me first. I keep telling these guys, don't do that, because I have a tendency to talk a long time, but that's, I think it's on. Can you guys hear me? Yep. Yes? In the back? Yep. Okay. So, really what I wanted to touch on today is just a little bit of the history and why did the department actually go in and make the transportation technician program. So for decades, until about the end of 2003, first part of 2004, we had maintenance and we had construction. What do you think some of the constant things we always heard on the construction side from about the maintenance folk? No, how was that? Don't do anything. These guys don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's going on out there. Now, what do you think the maintenance guys are saying about the construction people? Same thing. These guys don't know how to build a road. They don't know what our needs are. So there was this huge wall that existed. Some of it was perceived. Some of it was probably real. And we also had separate training paths for our employees. Who remembers NICET? Does anybody remember what NICET was? Who took NICET in here? NICET was the first training piece we tried to put together. It's a National Institute of Certification of Engineering Technologies, I think is what it stands for. But I remember one of my first roles in 1994 as a rotational engineer is I was actually proctoring NICET exams for our construction techs and our maintenance folk. But what really we noticed, even though NICET's a great program, it was not geared to UDOT. And it wasn't specific to the work that we were doing out there. So we kind of changed things up a little bit, and we made M3 and T3. Does anybody remember those? Did anybody ever take those? So M3 and T3. M3 is on the maintenance side, T3 is on the construction side. So now here, though, again, we have two separate paths, still two separate organizations, but we're all still trying to accomplish the same goal. And that is really to make a transportation system that is constructed well and maintained well, and that suits the needs of the traveling public. So there was a study that was done, and it made a recommendation that we should combine maintenance and construction and create what's called the transportation technician. And so we did that. And with that, along with that, there was some vision that came along with that. Why do we want to do this? So three of the main bullets I really want to talk about was one, efficiency. So instead of having these siloed groups, individuals on each side, now we can have one group of individuals that understands the total program. We can balance our workload using this one group of individuals. And we can optimize the number of employees that we have when we actually are looking at the actual size of our workforce. Does anybody know how many new employees UDOT has gotten in the last 15 years? Take a guess. At least I know on the maintenance side. Overall, 0. Not one. We've had a little increase, but had to give some back. Why is that? UDOT initially identified what our core group size should be for what our main function was, and that's what we're going to stick with. Anything above and beyond that, we're going to find other ways to deliver those goods and services. Besides, also, we are one of the reddest states in the nation, and I can guarantee you the Utah legislature is not going to grow state government. It won't happen. That's okay. We can live with that. We also wanted a better trained and more dynamic workforce. We wanted individuals who could do multiple roles and tasks. Go plow snow in the winter, go out and inspect construction projects in the summer, but we needed them well educated. So we combined T3 and M3 into what? TEP. Who's been through TEP? That's better. Got everybody's hand went up. That's good. But also, the other main outcome of that too is it created for us an improved career goal path for these individuals. So instead of being siloed into one side, it opened up that career path so you take numerous different areas. So if you're on the maintenance side, you could go into the construction side and vice versa. The other thing we wanted to really promote too is a unity that we are one UDOT. We wanted to break down that barrier that was there, whether real or perceived, between construction and maintenance. We are one UDOT. We all have the same goal out there. We're all striving to make the same accomplishments in our work program. So that's a little bit of the history and the vision of how we got here. So the other main 4 elements of success: leadership, setting clear priorities, commitment to employee development, performance management. I'm only going to talk to 2 of these briefly. The first one, though, is leadership. And I don't have a slide for this, though. But can you imagine back in the fall, start of the winter 2003, coming into the calendar year 2004, I was the operations engineer in Region 1, and my region director comes to me and says, by the way, here's this new program, go implement it. Really? Wow. So a lot of homework later, we had this big meeting, bringing everybody together, all the maintenance folks, all the construction techs. We bring them all together, and we tell them the vision, and we tell them why we're doing this. And guess what happened? They had a noose out back, and actually had to run away. No, it wasn't that bad. But putting it from a perspective of decades of being in the same type of structure, change is difficult. So the change for us to go to a Trans-Tech program was not easy. The other problem we had too is we had some regions that really embraced it hard, and others that also embraced it, but they had more difficulty getting people on board. The final message ended up coming down to, you know what, guys? The train is leaving the station, you better be on board the train. That was a long time ago, and so I don't want to reflect on that. But the implementation of this program was not easy. We are now looked at across the nation by numerous other DOTs as the envy of these type of programs, because numerous other DOTs now are starting to implement this. It's because of costs, resources, and what they've seen the ability that we have to be able to construct and maintain a first-class transportation system in the state of Utah. So let's talk about setting some clear priorities. This is one of the assumptions that the group that did the study actually came out with at first. And there has been so much talk about this, whether this is true or not. So basically what it's telling you is in the winter, you're going to be plowing snow, and that's your heaviest time for maintenance. And in the summer, you're out doing construction, and that's the heaviest time for our employees during that time frame. Is that actually the truth? There's some truth to that. There is some. When it snows, it's all hands on deck. Everybody knows that. Everybody's going to get in the plow. We're going to go take care of what we need to do. But does maintenance work in the summer? Yeah, we do. Do a lot of work in the summer. So it was a little bit of a misconception there. And it took us a while to really kind of understand that dynamic and to balance this out. So what did it boil down to? It boiled down to that leadership piece again, of having leaders that can identify that proper loading of your resources that are available and make that happen appropriately to where you're fitting the best needs of what the department is. So, like I said, when it snows, You're out plowing, that's number one priority. When the highest priority, other than that, and activities in construction, even during the winter, deck pourers, paving, et cetera, yes, those take a great high priority. And maybe even higher priority than, say, plowing snow at that point in time. But we don't do a lot of that work during the winter, fortunately. Other priorities are more difficult, but this piece right here, communication at shed level and crew level. Communication from our leaders to the area supervisors, to the resident engineers, to the station supervisors is critical. For them to be able to understand where your resources are, what resources you have available, and what can you do with those resources. One thing I've always liked to do is I always put this in context of, are we ever going to have enough people? No. Are we going to have enough money? Probably not, no. So how do you balance that? It is a balancing act. So what we try to do is when that workload ebbs and flows from one side to the other, we like to have what we call the toolbox. And inside that toolbox are tools, contracts, new equipment, new technologies, to help fill that void so that we can still be successful. So this will last a little bit, and see, I'm actually almost done. You're actually going to have some time, Steve. That's good. Balance of experienced technicians and training on construction crews. How do we achieve that? How do we actually get our trans-techs the balance of knowledge they need to have? And make sure we are also getting all trans-techs the knowledge, skills, what's the other one? Abilities, thank you. And training to be eligible for the promotions. The department wants you to succeed. We want you to be able to move up that career ladder. Those who are responsible for long-term maintenance or have maintenance experience or involved in initial construction, they will ensure a high-quality initial product that is easier to maintain. So what does that mean? This is one of the best things that's happened with our program. If you're out there building it, and then you've got to maintain it, you need to maybe put a little more effort into making sure it's done right. That was one of the old things that used to happen before the program was incepted, is a maintenance crew would go take over a brand new project, and the first thing would come out is, boy, man, look what they did here. Look what they left us. Now we have to go fix that. If that happens today, that's our own fault, because that should not be happening. The schedule is not completed with diligence. Maintenance stations may be left shorthanded during the summer months. You can't just all of a sudden say, you know what, we're sending everybody over here. You can't do that. You actually have to have a plan together, how you're going to balance those resources, and it's not easy. It is not easy, is it, Rob?
No, it's not easy.
It is definitely a challenge. Last and least, though, too, we must meet federal expectations on our inspection documentation. A lot of your trans-techs, you're working on federally funded jobs. We have special reporting requirements and special needs that have to be met. If they are not, we run the chance of losing federal participation on those jobs and federal money in the future. So that is a big question mark for us, is how do we make sure that when our people are out there doing this work, that they are trained appropriately and they understand that dynamic of what they need to be recording and things are done appropriately. But I think that's it for me. Yep. Ira, I think you're it.
Well, that was short.
Here's your sticker.
Okay, my name is Ira Bickford. I'm the maintenance training manager, and I've been here for almost 23 years now. When I first came here, I'll give you the short history that I was the vegetation manager for the maintenance out of Central, and then when I took over the training slot, we were in M3. So I've been on the ground with TEP since I think its inception. TEP, just to clarify, is the training arm of the Trans-Tech program. We are not the complete Trans-Tech. Timeline for a Trans-Techs when they come in, they have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. The whole concept is they get 1 year of training with 1 year of experience. pay increases. Trans-techs actually come in an underfilled position as a Tech 1. When they finish level 2 of TEP, then they're eligible to go in and do their peer reviews. We at Central in the TEP that produce the certs for it, we don't give you pay raises. It's the region's peer review panels that say, yes, you are now qualified. All we do in TEP is to say you have passed that level. We don't say, oh, you're good to go, you get a pay raise. We say you finished the coursework and you've been here long enough that you can now go to peer review at level 2, and that is at this time a 12% pay raise. You have to complete level 3 before you can go to level 4. At level 4, when you finish level 4, you can go back and do the same thing and get the N grade, which is a 6% pay raise at this time. The progression starts out with the training academy. Most guys that are techs, you've seen me before at the academy. We do the academy twice a year, spring and fall. We try to stick pretty close to the same dates, but there's a little variation. But we do the 2 weeks of the Trans-Tech Academy, spring and fall. Then we have the rest of the TEP, and it's on this slide. No, it wasn't on that slide. I'll get to it. Opportunities, maintenance functions, CDL, processes and practices, construction functions, inspection, materials, transportation education for all transportation technicians. Some UDOT employees from other shops come in. One of the directions I was given real early on was don't tell anybody in UDOT they can't go to TEP. Even if they don't get a pay raise out of it, they can still go. We've had several Tech 4s, a lot of area supervisors, station supervisors who are now eligible for the N grade. We've had a lot of people go through TEP. Last numbers I ground was somewhere close to 550 people that have went through TEP over the last 11 years. Administration part of it is their job description, the academy, the transportation education program. OJT is a big part of that. That's the experience arm of that. Manuals and instructions, the TEP, the Transportation Technician Policy 05JC. Did I mess it up? Yeah. 5-52. Oh, 5-52. See, I knew I'd screw it up if I tried to pull a policy. It's not one of my strong points of reading policies. Okay, the way it works out is the academy, we do this. Uh-oh, how come it died? There we go, press the wrong button. The academy, we do it twice a year. It's pretty intense. If anybody's ever been through the academy, we beat you up, tons of information. First week is all classroom, second week is part classroom, and then we have you out in the field. Anybody would ever like to come out to the field or come to the academy, just let me know. We're really glad to have you come over and observe. I'm always looking for people to tell me different ways. When my new boss came on board, one of the discussions we had, and I don't remember where it came up with, was trying to make the traffic control better, some little more hands-on. So now when we do our traffic control class at the academy, we actually have a room we fill up with barrels and little tiny cars on a sheet. And several of the trainers and I got together and built this. So now our traffic control is actually hands-on. What we do in that traffic control class is we actually go in and mess it up and then have the techs come in after the class and tell us what is wrong with this picture. So we actually have added things, and we're continuing looking for improvement. Long courses, math and English, they're in the fall. They go from basically October to March of every year. And those are just the math and English parts of the classes. The short courses, these are web-based courses. They start in April or May of every year. These are all UDOT specific classes. They deal with everything from equipment management, OMS, MMQA, inspection and documentation, materials. I don't memorize them, but there's a total of about 19 classes, and that includes the UDOT specific, plus we have some of the Microsoft Word, Excel, those kind of classes in there. This is a breakdown or metrics of all the different classes that we do at the academy. Not going to go through all of them, but we break Department of Construction, Department of Maintenance. This is a pretty good breakdown. of every year. You start at level 1. You have the math and English, materials, inspection and documentation. Level 2, you go through the math, English, survey, structures, material, inspection, documentation. And that's when you complete level 2. And we have at the end of the year, every year, just so you know the process, when we get done, and then usually June, then some of the trainers from Central and I will meet with every one of the region trainers, and we go through every person's files to make sure they have met everything. One of the constant complaints I get is we're being a little slow. Yeah, sometimes we are a little slow, but when you have 100 to 180 people to go through all their files, and we go through them pretty thoroughly to make sure you have met the criteria. I'm the one that signs those certs. I take it extremely seriously that you have met the qualifications that we set down. The Transportation Education Steering Committee, there's a whole group of people. Lori, if you guys don't know Lori, my boss, Kevin, Rob Wright, there's a whole bunch of people that have met from time to time, and it's a little more informal these days. But we do have regular meetings and talk about how do we improve it, how do we make it better, what are the things that we could do. The biggest complaint I get, just to be honest, is math. One of the area supervisors, I was going to pick on him, but he's ignoring me, so he always talks to me about math. Right? No. You were ignoring me. I was going to pick on you, but.
I was listening to Marge. I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, see, there you are. You're not even paying attention to me. You're the one that's always giving me grief.
I have guilty as charged.
Anyway, we continually look to try to strive to improve the program. And I can tell you that it's a good group. We take it all very seriously. We have a lot of input from construction maintenance people, and we continually try to improve the training that we're doing. Oh, and that was I'm done. See how fast I am? I'm a much faster talker than Kevin is. I'm a little more animated too sometimes.
Real quick before Steve starts, I just want to make sure those rolls are still circulating, because we have had a number of people that have come in late.
Is there anyone that hasn't signed up?
Yeah, just pass it around again, so just keep them passing.
Well, good news and bad news. The good news maybe it's all the same. I didn't think Kevin was going to be as short as he was, so I don't have anything prepared. I thought he's going to take the whole time, so we're done. No. Just by raise of hands, who in here is currently in the TEP program? Raise your hands and keep them held high. Just okay. Put your hand down if you have sat through a peer review board. So we just got maybe just a few that haven't had the opportunity to sit through a peer review board. I'll kind of go over what to expect when you get to a peer review board. After you completed all the education and not all, but it's part of the education and training that's required, you come to a peer review board. And what happens is you walk into a room, and this is what you see, except for no suits and ties, but see some grumpy looking faces, and they're all staring at you, ready to write things down, and pretty dry looking. First thing you need to know that we are not the enemy. We're there to help make sure that you succeed, that you're successful as a transportation technician. I wasn't sure what all the other regions did. I'm in Region 1, so I'm the peer review chair up there, and I'm pretty familiar with what we do up there, but I wasn't familiar with what the other regions do. And for the most part, the core part is the same. There are a few minor differences. So I may say something that maybe won't be exactly the same as what your region does, but for the most part, I think everything is the same. Okay, so how do you get to the peer review board? Well, after you're finished with your education and you've got the time in, got everything ready, you go to the policy, see what's in the policy, make sure you've got everything that's required. And one thing, as I talked to the other regions about their peer review board, they all stated we follow what's in the policy. And so you get your packet, you submit it to the review chair, get it all filled out. They'll review it, make sure it's complete. If they're missing something, they'll say, hey, before I can schedule anything, I need to get this from you. And then your review is set up. You'll receive an appointment telling you where and when the peer review will take place. And then the peer review is actually conducted, which I'll get in a little more detail on what that all entails. But once the peer review is completed, the board makes recommendations. And it's important to realize that we have high expectations for you, and we know that you'll live up to them, but sometimes there may be an area that you're lacking in. As the peer review board meets together and discusses, if there's an area that you're lacking and you need improvement on, it will be identified and a plan will be put in place to make sure that that deficiency is corrected. What the peer review board is 3 to 5 members, and there will always be a representative from maintenance side of things and a representative from the construction end of things. And they get together and they'll ask you questions. For a level 1 to a level 2, the questions are going to be more generic. We're not looking for expertise in all fields. There'll be the questions they're less formal, more open-ended, just kind of get a feel of what your knowledge is. And a lot of the times I get asked, well, what shall I study? What do I need to learn? If you go to the peer review package that you fill out, there is this list of abilities and knowledge and criteria that you'll be asked. That's the best place to start. You can see there's points possible. The peer review board will give you a number, grade based on how they feel your knowledge is on that. And you need to have a score of 40 out of 60 to get there. So you do the math, that's what, 6 2/3 is kind of what you have to average. So they're not looking for perfect 10s and everything. But if you're on here and you're looking and you see documentation such as quantities, daily reports, MMQA, you should be familiar with what those are. If you see MMQA and you have no idea what that stands for or what it is, it's probably a good idea to find out what it is. Again, the questions that will be asked of you are to measure what your knowledge is. There's also a list of mandatory education and experiences, For example, it says understanding of concrete nuclear testing. It doesn't say be certified and know everything about it, but you should have an understanding what that test is, what it tells you, what sort of information you get from that. For someone who's applying to be for a level 3 certification, I guess you could say the peer review is going to be a little more intense, a little more detailed. We're going to be asking more questions where there's detailed, specific answers we're looking for. There will be also open-ended questions just to test your knowledge. For example, up in Region 1, I'm not going to give you the test questions. Maybe that's what y'all came here for, hoping to find, but I'm not going to give that to you, but I'll give you one that we give in Region 1. It's, if a chicken and a half can lay an egg and a half in a day and a half, how long will it take a one-legged grasshopper to kick the seeds out of dill pickle? So you might want to look that up and be prepared for when you come. That's a joke, by the way. Is this on? What? They were taking notes, weren't they? Again, we have the same criteria in the policy where it says you will rate the applicant on these fields. So all the questions will be in one way or another will be aligned with what they expect you to know. And on this one here, I added kind of what number to rate it. Now, this one, out of possible 80, there's 60, so you have to average, so to speak, about a 7.5 on there, which is ability to perform without assistance. So you should have knowledge of this. Again, if you see some of the most common places I see where the Trans-Tech slack is in EEO and DBE and labor compliance. If you're on a federal project, you should know why those are important, what they are, and why they are in place. And so as you prepare, don't put this off until you finish your schooling. Go ahead and look forward, see what type of things you're expected to know and be able to perform, and work towards that. There's also other mandatory experience and certifications for the level 3. And again, I haven't had anybody get 100% on any of the tests. And part of that, from my perspective, is I want to see what you know. To me, if you get 100%, then I probably didn't ask hard enough questions, because I don't know what your limit is. But that being said, these are good places to start and to start preparing. You say, don't put it off until you finish your packet and they set the appointment for 2 weeks later to start studying. Hopefully it's a process, as Ira explained, that as you're going through your classes and getting your experience. So when you get there, you should be able to do it without much problems. Now there's also the level 4, or the in-grade promotion that Ira addressed. The policy states that the chair can conduct a review, but he doesn't have to form a peer review committee and do a formal interview. It can, if the district engineers approve it, and I forgot to ask the other regions this, up in Region 1, does Region 2, is anyone from 2, 3, or 4 here? Do they know do they allow?
Region 4, what we do is we'll have them submit all their paperwork, and then we'll actually go through and make sure they've got everything they need. If we have any questions, we'll go through it, and then just kind of pass them up on to the DE and stuff. It's real similar to what we do up there.
Okay. Yeah, as part of the peer review package, you have to get your supervisor's evaluation for both construction and maintenance. And we look at that and rely on that quite a bit. And we do what we call phone interviews with the reference checks to see what those are. So it's maybe not as intimidating where you don't have to come to the peer review, but before the board. But sometimes we combine both as well. So with that, is there any questions? And this is questions for anything, not just my part. Jeez, want to talk? Oh, Kevin wants to talk. Surprise.
Turn the lights on. So, yes, questions. But before we go there, so where we're at right now with the program, are we just going to sit here and do nothing with it? Is it static? No, it never will be. So there are things we are looking at right now, and I do want to fill you in. I'm not necessarily going to tell you what those outcomes are yet, because I don't know. We're currently in the process of rewriting the policy. It's been quite a while since that policy was rewritten. We are making recommendations to the technical committee to see if we can get some different time frames passed in association with promotion and compensation. We are also looking at kind of what the materials group has done with additional qualifications for additional pay. So say you're a Trans-Tech 3 certified, so you've passed your peer review board for Trans-Tech 3, and there's no Trans-Tech 3 position open. So what happens in that regard? You have to wait. And you wait, and sometimes you wait. And specifically, if you're in a very isolated station, you can be waiting a long time. So we are looking at implementing a advanced training protocol, I guess is a way to put it, to where if you get and maintain some other certifications, you can get what's called a temporary increase. And that would stay on your payroll as long as you maintain those certifications. It's not a percentage of your pay. We're looking at it right now as an actually fixed dollar amount. So we feel like doing this for a couple reasons. One, once you've gotten to that level, you guys have worked hard. You worked dang hard to get there. And the other piece is retention. We spend a lot of money training our folks every year, tons. And we do have a bit of turnover. Who knows why? Say that again, a little louder.
You make more money elsewhere.
You can make more money elsewhere. Now, there's always give and take with that. The department has great benefits. The department has great medical. But the pay piece might not be as high. May now you have your CDL, and guess what? You're going to go drive truck for somebody else and make some more money. That's true. You can do that. But also on that private sector piece, you don't have job security either. Numerous people that have left and gone to the energy sector, they're coming back. You know why? Because there's a glut of oil in the country right now, and oil's going to go down to $25 a barrel, and all that work that was needed during the fracking operations is going away. So there's benefits to staying, without a doubt. We want to help our people, though, realize that. It's hard to train and get good people and keep them here, and we understand that. So we want to make it equitable. And those are some things we're working on just briefly right now. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I cannot tell you right now if any of this is going to happen. But I want you to know from the leadership, including leadership in this room, Carlos Rodriguez, myself, Lloyd Neely, Rob White, we are working very hard, Warrior Economy, working very hard to make things better for this program and to move it forward into the future as well. Also, we're implementing what's called the learning management systems. Anybody know what that is? The LMS is going to be a new way for us to track all of our training with every employee statewide with UDOT. And also, numerous other state agencies are buying into this as well. So instead of your region trainers having to keep individual files on you, it's all going to be done electronically. So when that packet has to be produced, they can go into this LMS system, and it'll have a record of everything you've done. Every certification, every class, every training, everything. It's going to simplify our process significantly and hopefully reduce that time frame, which I was talking about, because these guys spend a lot of time trying to track all that down and make that happen, make that much quicker. So again, this is another advancement that we're looking at. And it really this whole LMS thing really kind of started out because of the TransTech program. Maintenance is 50% of the department. It's a huge group and a huge training requirement associated with that. And so we're looking at ways to make things better, more equitable, and be able to maintain and retain our quality employees. You guys are awesome. In fact, that comment that Carlos made yesterday about bleeding orange, that is so true. That is so true. And that's interesting when people hear that, they don't know what that means. But it is true. Our employees do bleed orange. You guys have the utmost dedication to your work I've ever seen, of any group of any people I've ever worked with in my career. So even though when I came back from the Olympics, I was like, you put me in maintenance, really? Really? Anyway, I want to open it up for questions. What questions do you guys have for us? Yes, sir.
I don't know if this is a place for it, but the LMS system, is that the current database we're using, or is it gonna be a whole new system?
It's a whole new system.
Can I make one suggestion with that?
Absolutely.
Current database, we've kind of merged it all together somewhat. But as far as on my end of things, if we could pull up one person and have everything almost like a file, that would make life so much easier instead of bouncing around. I don't know if that's in the works or what, but
That's how it'll work.
figured I'd put that down there.
Yeah, and every employee has an identifier, unique employee number. You'll be able to, so you can look them up by their employee number. Sometimes you look up people by name, there's more than one individual with the same name. But everything that individual has done will populate. Every training, including stuff like, who had to just take recently the workplace harassment training online? Who didn't finish it? Good, I better not see one raised hand. Yes, even stuff like that, all of that will be tracked in the system. We've got some new training that's going to be coming out that is going to be maintenance responsibility as far as the Environmental Protection Agency. Things we're going to have to keep track of and training almost on a yearly or every other year basis. That'll be part of it. It'll all be in LMS. We'll be able to track all that and be able to produce those records when we're asked. Questions?
On the raises that you're talking about, when you become qualified for a Tech 3 and you already have your certifications, and there's no position, will the Tech 3s be able to get them same raises?
That's really what that is about. Once you are Tech 3 qualified, but you cannot obtain a Tech 3 position, there's not one available. That's,
What I'm saying is you're saying to give the raises to the Tech 2s that have the certifications.
because here's what's happened, is okay? So once you become a Tech 3, that raise goes away. So once you actually fill a Tech 3 position, that raise is no longer available to you.
So how much would the raise bring you up if you're a Tech 2?
It's nowhere near the raise to what a Tech 3 is. It's significantly less.
Actually, it's not a raise.
It's like an in-grade, not an
It's,
in-grade.
no, it's supplemental pay for
Right.
maintaining that certification as a Trans Tech 3.
Right.
And so
It's-
once you would obtain a Tech 3 position, then, you get the raise you get a 12% raise, from Trans Tech 2 to Trans Tech 3. So
Right.
that supplemental pay would go away. Actually, the way that we're proposing, and maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
with this because the technical committee hasn't approved this yet. We'll be presenting it to them this
okay.
coming Tuesday, however, but our proposal is going to be that this would be offered to all Trans Tech 2s who qualify for the Trans Tech 3 certification. So it doesn't matter whether there's a position available or not, it would be available to everyone.
Now again, the reason I brought this up, this is not a done deal. But the reason I do bring it up is because I want you guys to understand how much you're valued. I want you to understand that we are trying to do different things and implement some other things to show how much we appreciate what you guys do out there. And is this a given? It's going to happen? No, it's not. But you know what? We're going to bat. We're going to do whatever we can here to make this happen. And if it doesn't, then you know what? We'll start looking at something else. And that's our responsibility. That is what we need to be doing as leadership of the maintenance and construction areas here with the department, is how do we bring this program forward even farther into the future. Any other questions? Oh, come on. This is your opportunity.
For the short courses, why do they block you on being able to do those for 4 years? I understand the whole race thing, but like some of them, you'll be going to construction, and you'll be doing structures, but structures isn't until year 2 or 3. So now you're actually having to go do it in the field, not being allowed that training. It'd be nice if you can hold it for 4 years pay raise, but be able to go and do some of them, be able to allow to do your job better out on the field.
You want to answer that?
So I'm going to stand up and answer that because the learning management system, which is why he handed that over to me, that's one of the ideas that we have with that, is that with the learning management system coming into play, we will be able to open and close those at appropriate times. We haven't had enough conversations around how we're going to manage that yet, because as Ira mentioned, there is some challenges that come up when we have a bunch of when we have, say, a group of trans techs that start and move through the program together, it makes it easier to administer and manage and track. Whereas if we're allowing everybody to go, okay, you are going out to construction, now you need to do that, you complete that, it kind of breaks up the levels 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So we're trying to figure out a way to manage that. Does that make sense, how I'm answering that? And so we're trying to figure out how to have that available to you, yet still maintain a level 1 through 4. Are you following me? Follow-up question, or are you good with that answer? But we're really trying to make that happen. We've heard that suggestion multiple times. Gary?
For that, you ought to turn to your construction manual inspection. I mean, there's resources out there to educate you on that, and then you're also supposed to be working with your 3s and your 4s to get to that level. The flip side of that is, you got to be region 2, right? Okay. So in the other regions, we don't get on structures as much. So for our guys to jump in and do those classes when they've never even been out on one of
That's a great answer.
There's a system called Adobe Connect, and on that system, if you go under maintenance, you'll find about 70, 80 classes are all, not just maintenance classes, construction. Your trainer should be able to say, if you need some kind of training in something with construction and those skills, your trainer should be able to get you in that prior to the TEP classes. They're available.
What other questions do you guys have for us? You've got Kevin in the room, Rob White in the room. We have HR if you have questions about pay raises that they may be able to answer. Of course, Ira and myself. And as I look around, there's trainers and district engineers and supervisors as well in the room. So any other questions?
We still have 15 minutes available to us, and so we're going to lock the doors, make sure you all,
So let me
everybody
take,
has to ask at least one question.
well, I'll go ahead, take your question, then I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's relevant or not, but on these Transtech threes, we've had interviews for sheds, multiple sheds in the last year, and only 2 or 3 people put in.
Oh,
And we have 20 to 30 people qualified. Why are they getting, I mean, what's the benefit? How are you gonna make them put in? What can we do to encourage them to further their career?
And do you work with some of those gentlemen out there? I mean, what are their reasons for not putting in?
They don't wanna move shit.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh,
What's wrong with the shed that the opening's at, that no one put in for it? Something different. It's not comfortable. They, like they agree, they're trying to make this more loud, right?
But he's talking about here in the valley. He's saying there's 10 sheds here in the valley and there's 50 people that are available to put into those jobs. They don't
And 225 had to reopen their level 3 times to get somebody to even apply. And finally, those 4 people was forced to apply.
I mean, you know, that is a good question. You know, it's interesting. Usually you think that happens mainly more out in the rural areas where the opportunity is not available. Here's the thing, too. As people and individuals, a lot of the times we get in our comfort zone. I've been there before. I think pretty much everybody in this room has been there before. Taking on that additional responsibility sometimes frightens people. It does, without a doubt. This probably brings up something that what I'm going to ask, because I'm going to ask you guys a question here in a second. Is there something that we need to be doing on our end to help promote that? What is it that we need to be doing as leadership to help make these individuals realize that that is the right move for them, that that is a benefit to them and that is a benefit to the department? I don't think it's any way that I can, well, especially not from my level, because I don't do anything with the region level. But even at the region, to mandate someone has to put in for a position. It's really a personal choice. But that maybe it's something we need to start looking at is, why is that happening? What is the dynamic out there that is causing that to happen? What can we do to help fix that? That's a great question. You know, and that's something we'll look at. Question I want to ask you guys, though, is we're trying to move this program forward. We're trying to make changes here. What do you guys want to see? As Transtechs with UDOT, what do you want to see the future of this program look like?
I'd like to see, some of the older guys, it's going back and forth every year, you run bigger jobs in construction, doing stuff in maintenance, and then you kind of get to a point where you have nowhere to go. Be a level 4 or a shed foreman. A lot of times your shed foremen in those positions for
Right.
in the region labs. And that, so with, I mean, probably another meeting, but, you know, once you've been at Trans Tech 3 for a lot of years, maybe you could go to an engineering tech 3, take some heat off of level 4s, or, you know, you're still going back and forth, but you could pull from that group for your level 4s, for shift 1s or whatever. But engineering tech 3s is something I think the department needs to look at.
Yeah, we did away with the engineering tech 3 position when we made the Trans Tech program, because everybody was rolled into a Trans Tech. Whether you were construction tech 1, 2, or 3, you all became Trans Tech 3s at that point.
So Jeff, are you saying that it's more, would that same thing be accomplished by leaving it as trans tech, but just increasing the core crew size? Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah.
Now, that ability has been out there right now, and
Like right now, you put one, I think you put one back in the engineering with the RE. That wasn't a pay increase, you know, it was, you just put them over there. But if it was an engineering tech 3 position, then it gives movement for everyone in this room as another position. Because we're all kind of stuck now at Trans Tech 3, we're all just kind of sitting here with no movement. And that would give, it kind of defines you to go into construction or maintenance at that point, like we've always talked about. You can kind of choose, but the only choosing you have on construction is the 4.
yeah.
So that's why I think engineering tech 3, because they use them in the material labs.
They do.
Just a suggestion that I have.
Okay. It's a good comment. Anybody else? Come on. We still got time. Still got 8 minutes. Brandy, don't let anybody out.
Is there a limit, the reason you only have some sheds will have like maybe 2 tech 3s, and, you know, one only has 1 tech 3 with the same amount of employees in a shed? What constitutes how many 3s you have in a shed?
I'll kind of give you the background of how the number of actual Trans Tech 3s came about when the program was incepted. Back when we made the Trans Tech program, you basically had construction tech 1, 2s, and 3s, and you had station leads. And so they took that total number in each region, and that was the allocation they made available to each region at the time. Now, that has not changed since then. So I think like Region 4 and Region 2 have the ability to have 66 total. Region 1, I think, is 34, and Region 3, I think, is like 32 or 33. That's the number of Trans Tech 3 positions that region can technically have. I think that is definitely something we need to start looking at, is that the right number of Trans Tech 3s? Where does that actual ability to have an actual Trans Tech 3 need to exist at? Because that's been in place for a long time, and that number has never changed.
Their allocation of shed to shed is basically the district engineers have the
Yeah.
ability to move those around as they see fit.
Yeah, the regions can basically control where those Trans Tech 3s reside. So if you have 3 in one station and 1 in another, the district engineer can move a Trans Tech 3 to a different station. They can do that. But as far as the total number of Trans Tech 3s you can have in your region, that number was set basically when the actual policy and the whole program was incepted, and that has not changed since then.
That's how many were there at the time
Yep,
that was the change.
yep,
That was the total number of construction tech 3s and station leads.
yes, yep.
Just say they should be flexible, bounce around based on your DEs. Not something you gotta hit up.
Yeah, and the Ds need to be looking at that from a work resource loading, you know, and depending on where that amount of work is in the future, you should be able to move those resources around where you're needed, where they're needed. What else you want to know, guys? No? Yeah?
Any other changes to the transportation education program itself, the classes offered?
Yeah, what Lori said, any other changes you want or you feel should be implemented to the actual program itself, to TEP, to the classes, et cetera? Okay? Thanks, guys.